Nice to see you. Please.
Great to see you, Junior.
Thank you so much for taking time out to come and sit down with me today, George. I know you've had a really busy day, but as per usual, always making time for us, so much appreciated. Just got a few things that I want to ask you. We've been asking people in different communities within Bristol what they think of this mayor election. And we've got a little bit of feedback, and a couple of people have asked us if we do get the opportunity to put some questions forward to you.
That's great.
So
brilliant.
Let's get into it. Going back to when you were first elected in 2012, your mission statement reads, "Together we are making a real change in Bristol." You defined a vision for Bristol. Do you feel over the last 4 years that you've achieved a lot of what you first set out to do?
Yeah, bearing in mind it's actually less than 3.5 years, but because I was elected at the end of 2012, I think we moved a long way. I think there's a big change of mood. I don't mean we've cured all the issues, because there are huge challenges. There have been decades of insufficient investment in infrastructure and transport, in housing, to a certain extent in education, although that's getting a lot better. And so it's been catch-up. And I know as an architect and as a business person, as a social entrepreneur, that even to build a house from concept to completion takes about 3 years. So the physical change may not be yet so apparent, but I think there is a massive change in mood. And that's a good beginning. And I think we're getting noticed. We're getting noticed internationally as an environmentally aware city. We are getting noticed now as a learning city, and I think I want to talk more about that, because I think that is about cohesion. It is about social resilience. It is about language and understanding and inclusion. So, yes, I know from what people say back to me, both from within the city and basically from across the world, that Bristol is getting noticed. But it's just a beginning, and I feel that it was an awful shame not to have that next 4 years in order to be able to capitalise on that.
So do you feel that if you are elected for the next 4 years, that is what will give you the opportunity to complete what you've started?
Absolutely. I mean, I moved into what I describe as a bit of a management vacuum. There were only temporary people in charge. It gave me an opportunity to change the management of the City Council and to streamline it, to bring in some really good leadership into the City Council. At the same time, as an independent, it gave me the opportunity to bring the parties together represented in one cabinet. So I've got a cabinet of the mayor, a deputy mayor who's a Conservative, a Labour assistant mayor for people, a Green assistant mayor for neighbourhoods, and a Lib Dem assistant mayor for business change. There is no other cabinet of any city like that.
So,
and that, I think, combined with the streamlined management, which has saved the city a huge amount, which we're able then to help us maintain the key services, I think has put whoever is mayor after this election on a much better base. But I learned so much in the process. As of course I've had a lifetime of learning, but I've learned so much in the process that I now know I can make maximum use of that over the next 4 years.
We talk a lot about Bristol being independent, keeping Bristol independent, and yourself being independent. What I wanted to ask is, why is that so important? Why is it so important that we keep Bristol independent, and what does it mean to be independent?
Well, I think Bristol has a very independent spirit, and it's got a lot of independent businesses, probably more than any other city in the UK per head of population. It is the only city that voted to have a mayor, and that showed its independence. And I got elected as an independent mayor. Why? I think because people saw that a party mayor has split loyalties. What badge does a party mayor wear? They wear the badge of their party. and it's party first, Bristol second. I only wear one badge, and it's Bristol, because it's Bristol first, and that's why I describe myself as Bristol first, because every single decision I take, advised by my cabinet, advised by the people of Bristol where it's relevant, because I'm out there talking, discussing things, having Q&As with lots of organisations. That's why I absolutely know whether I take a decision right or wrong. I've only taken it for one purpose, and that is to make Bristol a better place.
And it has been said at times that sometimes you can be a little bit dictatorial in terms of your decision making and not taking on board other people's opinions. How is the role of mayor democratic in that way? And is it a case of you don't really take on board what people are saying and you have your ideas and that's what is going to happen?
Yeah, it's a description I honestly don't recognise, but it has, I've suffered from this at the beginning, and these obey posters out there and everything, which actually I quite like. I think they're quite funny. But the fact is, I do listen a lot. I listen and learn. But the democracy we have in this country is representational democracy. You elect the person you trust to deliver, and then you have another election further down the line, which we've got, and then you elect them or you elect somebody else, depending on what they've done. And I think a successful democracy has to be incremental in the way it does things. Sometimes you have to take brave decisions that you know will be unpopular for a time until they are proved. And I think that's the way I've operated. And so you'll never cure anything if you don't have if you don't have the guts to try things out. Actually, I think it would be a terrible failure not to have a failure, in that it just means you haven't tried. And so, I've had huge issues over transfer, over parking, over those sort of things. I'm lucky. I was president of the Royal Institute of British Architects. I've travelled the world, I've looked at other cities, I've engaged with loads of other mayors and city leadership, and I don't reinvent the wheel. I look at what works and I bring it to Bristol. Strangely, it works here too. But there are lots of people who won't believe it till it happens. And I have a sort of little joke that there is a collective noun for people who don't like change. And that's adults. But that kids love it. And I always say, actually, we could make this a good city for children. We make it a good city for everybody. But there's nothing more refreshing than having these discussions with the younger generation.
A lot has been said about the city services, and as mayor, do you run the city services, and why do you feel a lot of people are up in arms about it? I mean, for example, if you look at the eastern area, Stapleton Road, the rubbish bins and bins sort of being out there not cleared, things like that. A lot of people feel that you're maybe neglecting one side of the city in favour for another.
I mean, that couldn't be less true. We probably put more resource into the inner and eastern city than almost any other area. We do because there is a high density of population, there are more social issues, and I think it is vitally important that we attend to those. I mean, this is an endemic problem. It's not something that suddenly happened. But we are tackling those at source. I was dissatisfied with the arrangements for our waste collection, and so what we've done is we've taken that in-house, and it is improving. But we've got to make, because of government cuts of about 80 or 90 million a year since I came into office, we're talking about 25% cuts over 3 or 4 years. That is an extraordinary amount to have to cope with. Because of that, we're having to do more with less, basically. And But I don't want that to be an excuse. I want us to be entrepreneurial about finding new solutions. And I'm absolutely sure that now we have created our new company. So strictly speaking, we haven't taken it into the council, but created our new company that is solely owned by us. And then we can integrate it in order to stop it being a waste company, make it much more of a resource company. Think about how you might link waste to energy and those sort of things. But I'm absolutely passionate about making people's places better. And it's year on year, for decades we've had a problem with fly tipping, rubbish, bad behaviour. Basically it leads to these things. And I think by working together we'll be able to crack these things, and I'm absolutely determined that that's one of the things that we crack over the next 4 years. It's about community pride.
Do you feel maybe the communities in these areas should take more of an active role in their respective areas in terms of litter, the businesses in the areas in terms of pest control? Because around Stapleton Road there is a big issue with pest control with all the food businesses. Do you feel maybe the communities should do more? And if so, how are you going to engage with them to get them to do more?
Well, I mean, I think things like pest control are absolutely something that the City Council has got to engage with. It's an environmental and health issue, and the same applies to the private rented sector. There are some extremely poor landlords. We have to deal with that as well. So I think there are 3 levels actually. We've got to deal with it through the business community. We've got to deal with it through the neighbourhood partnerships, and we have to deal with it at central council level. But all those 3 sectors have to work together with the voluntary sector. But I've just been down to the opening of the Citizens Advice Bureau, the new CAB, and the new CAB is absolutely brilliant. Get down there, have a look. It's a result of me working with a businessman who wanted to take over their old property, which was unsatisfactory, putting money into the new property, us driving a asset transfer so that CAB can be more in charge of their own future and their own property. And so that was the private sector, business sector, working with the City Council and our property interests and the voluntary sector all working together. Now, I think that principle should be applied everywhere to finding the solutions that we just simply cannot go on putting up with.
Resident parking zones. This is an issue that you've had a lot of stick about, with some parts taking it on board quite well and quite happy with the RPZ, and other parts of the city feeling like they have been imposed on them and they didn't have a choice. Was it your idea to put in resident parking zones?
The idea existed. When I became mayor, I knew that we couldn't simply do nothing over the build-up of traffic, especially commuter traffic coming into the city. We had over 55,000 people driving the city at the same time every morning. 85% of them were single driver only, no passengers. And it's a madness, If you look from outer space, you would come here and think, what on earth is this all about? So something had to be done, and I wanted to look at congestion charge, parking control, how we boost our public transport. We don't really have public transport. And so I looked at the whole package. This isn't just about transport, it's about making a better city, a more livable city. And I talked about bringing experience from elsewhere, and that's what I was able to do. Yes, there was a residence parking scheme in Kingsdown. If we'd moved at the pace that previous administrations had moved, it would have taken 10 to 15 years to achieve what it took me 2.5 years to achieve. It did need a bit of driving, in terms of driving the policy, rather than the cars. It did need that. That has resulted in 25%, together with me doing a deal with fares for fare affairs on the buses, resulted in 25% more people using our buses, more people walking and cycling, active transport, which is good for health. We've increased the services to the park and ride.
Yeah.
We're building the Metro bus, which will be built by September 2017 next year. It will be transformational. We're going through some of the
because at the moment, transport is a real nightmare. Getting around Bristol, getting into Bristol, getting out of Bristol is an absolute nightmare at the moment, and all the fingers are pointing at you.
Yeah, but basically, it's because we've not invested, we've not had the guts to do this thing in the past. And love me or hate me, I don't think anybody accused me of not having not being prepared to make change. And so I do get stuff done. So the thing, my favourite thing that people come up and say to me is, I don't agree with all you're doing, but I like the fact you're getting on and doing it. And leadership is about being prepared sometimes to be unpopular, to get over the hump, to a place where people can see the reason why you've done something. And do you know the biggest complaint I now get about residents parking? Is why were we left out? So it's the areas that were left out of residents parking that I originally wanted to include, but I did make a bit of a compromise. And now saying to me, I wish we'd been included.
So are you
not all of them?
Are you looking to add to the resident parking zones? Is there areas that you feel that it has to be imposed further, or are you going to wait for different sections of the city to come and ask?
Yeah, I think it's going to be much more I think now people can see the purpose and see the results, and that it improves their local environment and the safety of their kids getting to school, and it actually improves their ability to park for a small cost of less than £1 a week. I think now people can see that. It's more likely that people are going to ask for them, and certainly I have seen that there is much more, I don't say consensus, but there's much more understanding, and I think that certain neighbourhoods will be asking us. But I'm not going to have I'm not going to declare war on it, and I don't want to be the mayor of parking. I want to be the mayor of making a good city, and this is just a little part of how you make a really good city.
A lot of the smaller size independent businesses in sort of the eastern St. Paul's area, let's call it, are complaining about things like so many of the banks closing in the area. I mean, not too long ago, there was a Barclays, NatWest, and a Lloyds on Stapleton Road. Those are all closing now, which is making it harder for businesses to bank. You've got to go all the way up to fish ponds to get a bank, or in the centre of town, which means the bank itself is quite clogged up. It takes a lot of time to do that. Are you going to do anything to help those local independent businesses?
I'm a huge fan of the high street, the independent high street. I love the life and the vibrancy that you get in places like Stapleton Road, Gloucester Road, and what have you. And I will do everything I can to support them, but there are limits. I'm the mayor of Bristol. I'm not the CEO of Barclays Bank, thank goodness. So in a capitalist society, you can't force them to stay. But I think there could be a conversation to be had, and I've got a very good engagement with business. I think that a mayor has to engage well with business and employers. There could be a conversation to be had as to whether there's the possibility of sharing a facility amongst the banks in some of the key areas that feel left out, and that's a conversation I'd like to have. We have these bids, these business investment improvement districts, where there is self-funding locally in order to be able to maintain services and improve high streets, where the businesses volunteer to pay 1.5% extra on their business rates in order to be able to improve their areas. Now that tends to be more attractive to the richer areas and the poorer areas. So I think trying to find a way of using that sort of device to help maintain essential commercial services within